Esmeralda floated, a vision in sapphire and ruby. Her fins, delicate silk in the water. She lived in a small, pristine aquarium. It sat on a child's bedside table. Pink castles and plastic seaweed surrounded her. To the casual eye, she was merely a pet. A beautiful, silent betta fish. Nothing more than a decorative creature. Her world seemed entirely peaceful, entirely predictable. Few knew the truth. Her owners, a loving family, saw only her beauty. They admired her graceful movements. They dropped in flakes of food. They tapped gently on the glass. Esmeralda would sometimes deign to notice a flick of her tail, a slow turn. They thought she was shy, or perhaps just a simple fish. They could not have been more wrong. This fish had seen things they could never imagine. Beneath that placid surface, a keen mind worked. Her stillness was not boredom, it was observation. Every ripple, every shadow was noted. Her large, expressive eyes missed nothing. Those magnificent fins, not just for show, they were rudders of immense precision, capable of silent movement, capable of swift, decisive action. She was a creature of habit, yes, the habit of vigilance. The world saw a Betta. Esmeralda saw her post. This quiet room, this glass bowl, was her current station. It was a far cry from the murky canals of Venice, a world away from the turbulent waters of the South China Sea. But a spy is always a spy. The training never leaves you. Her calm was a carefully constructed facade, a shimmering, scaled shield against the unsuspecting world. Esmeralda wasn't born in a pet shop. Her life began far from any child's bedroom. She hailed from the secret training lagoons of Thailand, hidden deep within mangrove forests. Here, fish were not bred for beauty alone. They were selected for intelligence, for agility, for a certain ruthless streak. Esmeralda had excelled. She was a prodigy among the fry, a tiny warrior in the making. Her training was legendarily tough. She learned fin-to-fin combat, how to disarm a miniature explosive device. Underwater Morse code tapped out with her tail. She could navigate by starlight. She could identify 27 types of listening bugs, even the ones disguised as snails. She endured escape and evasion drills, dodging nets, outsmarting predatory herons. She was taught to be invisible, a ghost in the water. Recruitment was inevitable. An operative from the Agency for Aquatic Assets noticed her. He saw her potential during a particularly daring mock infiltration. She had retrieved a vital piece of waterproof intel from under the nose of a grumpy old catfish instructor. She was small, she was underestimated, she was perfect. They offered her a life of adventure, of danger, of service. She accepted with a flick of her fins. Graduation was a solemn affair, no cheering crowds, no tossed caps. Just a final briefing. A tiny waterproof communication device was expertly attached. Near her gill, her first mission awaited. She was Agent Esmeralda, codename Deep Diva. The world was now her operational theatre, a vast, watery stage for her clandestine ballet. She was ready to make a splash, a very quiet, very secret splash. Her early days were with the CIA. They needed eyes in places humans couldn't reach. Esmeralda found herself in the ornate fountains of enemy embassies. She navigated the complex plumbing of presidential palaces, her mission to listen, to observe. She once retrieved a microfilm canister, cleverly hidden inside a decorative seashell. It was a tricky operation, full of peril, and surprisingly aggressive goldfish. Then came Mai 5. London called. The waters were colder here, murkier. She patrolled the Serpentine in Hyde Park, eavesdropping on clandestine meetings, held on park benches near the water's edge. She had to avoid territorial swans and the occasional discarded sandwich. Once she narrowly escaped being caught by a curious terrier with a penchant for fishy things. It was a close call. Too close. Mossad sought her unique skills next, for a mission in the sun-drenched Red Sea. She was deployed from a miniature submarine. Her task to map an underwater enemy installation. She used her natural bioluminescence to signal her team. In complex coded patterns, she outmaneuvered venomous lionfish and navigated treacherous coral reefs. The intelligence she gathered was invaluable. Her reputation grew in very select circles. Esmeralda became a master of her craft. Disguise was simple. A subtle shift in fin display, a change in her swimming pattern. Sabotage was an art. A well-aimed flick of gravel to disrupt a sensitive sensor. Lip reading through aquarium glass became second nature. She could decipher conversations from across a room, all while appearing to be just a pretty fish, blowing innocent bubbles, the perfect cover. Section 4. The Abbottabad current whispers from the deep. The year was 2011. Tensions were high. Operation Neptune Spear was in its planning stages. Intelligence was crucial, but the target compound was a fortress. They needed a source inside, or very, very close, something discreet, something no one would suspect. Human agents were too risky. Drones were too obvious. They needed something smaller, something wetter. The call went out for Agent Esmeralda. She was smuggled into Pakistan, a masterpiece of logistical daring. Transported in a specially designed thermos. Disguised as a diplomat's personal supply of green tea, she was carefully placed into a small, decorative water feature within earshot of the compound. Her mission to observe, to report any unusual activity. The stakes had never been higher. The fate of the mission could depend on her. For days she watched and listened. She noted the comings and goings, the patterns of life. Then she saw it, or rather sensed it. The water in her feature tasted strange, slightly metallic, unusual algae growth, indicating a closed, filtered system, designed perhaps to evade detection. She also observed the disposal of specific food waste, consistent with a larger household than publicly acknowledged. Tiny clues, big implications. Transmitting this vital intel was delicate. She used a series of precisely timed tail flicks against a submerged, almost invisible seismic sensor, placed there by her support team. The message was clear. The compound was definitely occupied, and taking precautions. Her information corroborated other intelligence. It helped build the final picture. The raid proceeded. History was made. Esmeralda, the betta fish, had played her silent, crucial part. Section 5. The Still Waters, a spy's semblance of peace. Years of covert operations took their toll. The constant danger, the narrow escapes, the friends she had lost. Agent Goldie, eaten by a rogue heron in Amsterdam. Sergeant Scales, compromised during a mission in Monte Carlo. Esmeralda sometimes woke with a start, her fins flaring, expecting an enemy or a sudden net. Fishy PTSD, perhaps. The memories swam deep within her, yet her professionalism never wavered. She kept her secrets locked tight, tighter than any treasure chest. Not even her reflection knew the full story. The secret she carried could destabilize entire regions, or at least cause a major diplomatic incident involving several angry ambassadors and their prized koi ponds. She remained the consummate professional, silent, watchful, deadly if necessary, but mostly just watchful now. Now she lives a life of apparent peace. Her aquarium is her sanctuary. The child brings her food, sometimes a plastic pirate treasure chest. Esmeralda finds this amusing. If they only knew. The real treasures she had guarded, the real pirates she had faced. This life was calm, predictable, a world away from the adrenaline, from the constant threat of exposure, or so it seemed. But a spy is always a spy, even in retirement. A sudden movement outside the window, a change in the room's light. Her fins would stiffen, her eyes would focus, old instincts died hard, very hard. Esmeralda watched her small world, and waited. For what? She wasn't sure. Perhaps another call, another mission. The world might think she was just a fish, but Esmeralda knew better. She was always ready.